You can do anything. But what you gonna do for it? How you gonna move for it? What you gonna be?
Hey everybody, welcome to A-Train Bets. I am A-Train and I make bets. And today we are looking for how to make hockey bets. And so we're going to take you over to my favorite place, the Odds Jam Sportsbook screen. Well, really Odds Jam is my favorite place and then Sportsbook screen happens to be part of it. But I find that it's a really useful place. And we're not going to worry too much about Odds Jam today, but we are going to worry about the kinds of bets you can make on hockey. So in this case, we're looking at popular leagues, we're looking at hockey. We're going to go into the kinds of markets that hockey has. And so what you'll see, and I have videos on other sports. So we've got, basketball and baseball and soccer, and we've learned about those kinds of sports bets, and you're going to see a lot of parallels between them all. And so in this one, we are looking at moneyline first, and moneyline is the simplest kind of bet you're going to have. It's effectively who's going to win the game being the full game, so that's our moneyline bet, right? Or it could be individual periods. And when you see these three-way money lines, what that means is that you have a winner. You can bet one team to win, you can bet the other team to win, or you can bet the tie. And so the tie is then separated out. In typical money line bets, non-three-way money line bets, a tie is a push, or you get your original wager back, but you don't win anything. Okay? So let's take a look at money line bets for the NHL. Now, what you'll see is because we are betting one team or another, the only thing that the sports books can really do to control that, because it's a singular outcome, it's binary outcome, either the Panthers win or the Maple Leafs win, or it could be a tie. Tie, no bet in the standard money line. In this case, they can't control. They can't change anything about the outcome, whereas we'll see on the spread betting side how they can. But in this case, it's which team wins. So the only thing they can do is control the prices that they're setting based on those outcomes. So in this case, what this means is, so if we look at Caesars, this is Caesars right here. And what we're seeing in Caesars is that in this case, we're saying the Toronto Maple Leafs, Caesars believes, and as you look across all the prices, the entire market believes that the Maple Leafs in tonight's game are the favorite. And so that means that Maple Leafs could win, Florida Panthers could win, but because they're the favorite, Caesars is saying we're going to charge you a premium to bet on the Toronto Maple Leafs tonight, and it's going to be a premium that will cost you $17 to try to win $10. So if you say, okay, my goal here is to bet on this game and I want to win $10 regardless what happens, right? I could say, okay, I want to win $10. It's going to cost me $17 at Caesars. I'm going to go place that bet there. Now, I could go place that bet at Pinnacle if I have access to Pinnacle, and instead of being $17, it's only $16.90. Well, if I want to win $10, it's better to invest less, right, than to invest more. So I could go bet at Pinnacle. Or, if I don't have an account at Caesars, I could go over to, DraftKings, or a FanDuel. DraftKings is the same price, but FanDuel has a higher price, so it's going to cost me $17.60 to win $10 on a moneyline bet on hockey at FanDuel. And this is going to vary. It's just like each game could be different, right? So on the opposite side, we'd say, all right, well, I just want to bet $10 on the Panthers, and I would see what I can get. Well, in this case, if I want to bet $10, $10 would win me $14.30 at Caesars. But if I went and bet that same $10 at Pinnacle and win that bet, Florida wins that game, Pinnacle's going to pay me $15.20. And in that case, you'd be like, well, I should go bet at Pinnacle then, because I like more money when I win than less money than when I win, right? So similarly, that's how a money line bet actually works, right? And so that's where you get different prices. And if nothing else, if you say, okay, I think the Maple Leafs are going to win tonight, at least go to the place. In this case, Odds Jam is just giving us lines that are telling us if you had no VIG, so if you don't have a sports book, it's just you betting a friend, this is the price that you should set. Your $10 against my $15.50. We've got a fair bet. Let's go with that. So that's what the Odds Jam algorithm does. It gives us what's called a no VIG line, which is how we can then calculate some fancier math to determine when we have positive expected value on a particular bet, and we can place those bets. That's a topic for more advanced videos. In this case, we're just trying to understand, hey, how do we place a simple bet and understand the implications of the odds that we're looking at? Because you don't go and place a bet without having some sort of price to that bet, right? So that's where we want to understand what money line for NHL, for hockey bets really are. Now let's look at a different kind of market. We're going to look at a spread market. Now, in all cases, spread markets are differentials in the score between the two teams. And what that allows them to do is set more consistent prices, but then have a little bit more variance in the outcome based on the score to kind of be 50-50 on what those outcomes are going to be, which in a sportsbook, they're managing risk across all these bets. You can go and place any bet you want at a sportsbook anytime. And so the way they manage that is by offering prices or offering lines that are where they can get action bets on either side in a relatively equal amount, or at least be equally attractive on either side of those bets. So the spread market is saying, okay, that's the score. Now here in hockey, it's called a puck line a lot of time. In baseball, it's called a run line. And in many others, it could be just line or, spread is what you're going to see kind of more consistently across everything. So in this case, it's hockey. You don't have as much scoring in hockey as you do in like basketball or something. But the spread line can be, the puck line can be, 1.5 goals in this case. And so in this case, just like we were looking at the money line, the difference is it's that now you're not betting on the Panthers to win. You're betting on the Panthers to lose by less than 1.5, right? And so, or you're betting the Maple Leafs will win by more than 1.5. So what happens in that case, whereas the Toronto Maple Leafs were costing us more before to be able to place the bet on them, now we're saying, hey, the Maple Leafs are going to crush the Panthers and they're going to win by at least 2 goals. So you can't win by exactly 1.5. They know that. Like the 1.5 is just a thing. It's a mechanic that allows us to say, if the Maple Leafs win by 2 or more goals, you're going to win $14 on your $10 bet versus now we're going to say the Panthers, they got a goal to give. They get a goal and a half. So if the Panthers lose by less than 2, then you have a winner on this side, right? So if they win or they lose by 1, you're winning this bet, but it's going to cost you. It's going to cost you $16.50. So what happens if you place this bet on the Panthers and the Panthers win the game outright? You still only win $10. Whereas if you'd bet the money line on the Panthers, you would have won more than $10. And so that's how it all gets managed. But if you, depending on your confidence, depending on what you think is going to happen in the game, or depending on when the prices are telling you, hey, this is a bet worth playing, that is how we can navigate these kinds of lines in these kinds of markets. So the Panthers and Maple Leafs in this case, if you wanted to get plus, what's called plus money, so you see the plus on the front side, plus money on the Maple Leafs, you could say, well, I'm so confident in the Maple Leafs coming out tonight and just crushing them. I think they're going to win by 8 goals. Now, if you would think they're going to win by 8 goals, you could place a bet that they're going to win by 7.5 goals. And if you're right, you'd get way more than plus 142. I can promise you that. But it's, in this case, you say, okay, the main line here is Toronto Maple Leafs minus 1.5. I'm so confident they're going to win by 2 or more. I'd happily place this bet instead of just saying they're going to win the game, because now I get plus money being I get more than my original wager back in profits. So my $10 now gets me $14.20 in profits back along with my original wager. So you would get $24.20 back on that. And granted, these numbers are all percentage basis. So if you're doing $100, you just add a 10 factor to all of these things. But I think for most starting out bettors, thinking in terms of $10 bets is probably more appropriate than thinking about $100 bets, which is probably more what sharp bettors are going to be looking at a lot of the time, because they're trying to get as much money down as they can on their betting. So let's look at some of the other kinds of bets that we'll get in hockey. So hockey, we also have totals. So just like other sports, totals are when we're adding together the scores on both sides. So we could say, okay, in this case, the Panthers and the Maple Leafs, say the Panthers and Maple Leafs are Panthers lose 2-3. The Maple Leafs win 3-2. That's a total of 5. So on our totals, we could look and see okay, total goals. Let's look at that same game. The total is 6.5 is the line. And you see there's a lot more parity in these prices again. You're adding together the score. In my example, it was a 3-2 win, Maple Leafs over the Panthers. That's a 5 in the total, and the under would end up paying, right? So that's where if you would bet this at Caesars, if you bet $10 on that total under 6.5, you'd have a winner, and you'd get paid back $10.50 plus your original 10, and your ticket would cash for $21 or $20.50. So that's where, in doing this, you can understand how all of these line up. Now, similar to what we were talking about before, the prices all matter. And so at FanDuel, if you're going to make this bet and say, I think they're going to only score 5 goals combined, well, you could go place it here and get $10 to win $10, or you can go and place that same bet at Caesars and get $10 to win $10.50, which is the better place to place that bet. There's nothing different about the circumstances or what causes that bet to win or lose. All that's different is the price. Again, this is really different than what a lot of casino gambling is, where all of the odds are set all the time and all they can vary is, maybe some of the intricate rules and how much their limits are on being able to play, or like table minimums and stuff. But for the most part, a casino game is a casino game. But in sports betting, everything comes back to all of these different odds. And that's really differentiated quite largely across all the different books. And when there's that kind of variance across different books, there's opportunities for sharp bettors to come in and make plays that are mathematically advantageous. So in addition to the totals, then you get into some other kinds of bets in hockey that are like player props. So this is where we're betting what is an individual doing in that game. Are they going to score a goal? Are they going to have goals scored against them? That could be a goalie statistic. You see blocked shots for goalies. You can see shots on goal. You can limit it to regular time, or you can also add overtime. That'll also be true in some of the totals. So you see the regular time there as a market. And something like OddsJam allows me to go and look at all the lines for all of these things. And that's really useful if I want to go and play specific kinds of bets, or I have a team that I know very well and I want to bet on that. Certainly a something that you can do. Player props, again, you just kind of have different outcomes for individuals within a game typically. Then team markets, you're seeing different times team totals. So again, you're not adding the two team scores together, which is our traditional total. You're just looking at the individual score for that team over whatever period of time you're looking at. Regular time team total typically will be regular time plus any overtime period, which happens fairly frequently in hockey. It will also include the result from the shootout. So if that ends up being a shootout conclusion to overtime, you won't get a total for each of the goals in the shootout, but you will get one at the end with whoever wins that shootout. So just be aware of that. Futures markets happen over time, so we can look at this Eastern Conference winner, just for example. Here's who's still left in the playoffs. You can go and say, okay, well, I believe that the Hurricanes have this covered. Where do you want to bet it? Well, in this case, what's the cheapest to win $10? It looks like Barstool or Bet Rivers, which actually share the same back end. So they're usually going to have similar or the exact same, I should say, odds on wagers. But Barstool, you could go place it there, $11.70 to say the Hurricanes are going to win your $10. Or you can go over to BetMGM, pay $13 to win that same $10. Which is the better play? Clearly Barstool in that particular circumstance, right? So go back here and we'd see other things. So other markets just can be different races or different other conditions that may be interesting specifically in hockey. Both teams to score in a period, that might be fun. Both teams to score in the game, scoring 2 goals, first goal scorers, first team to score, last team to score. So the first goal scorers in this case is a person. So you're looking at the first goal scorer on that. So that's kind of a player prop that's just mixed in with other things. So they can be in different spots, but all in all, I mean, once you start to understand the patterns, like each of these sports have some intricacy, some uniqueness about them, but they're very similar across different sports. Now, you start to get into some other sports that are kind of structured differently, like tennis and other things like that. You'll still see patterns, but they're structured a little bit differently. But something that has particular periods or particular in tennis sets or in basketball quarters or in baseball innings, you'll see some slight variations just due to the nature of the games. But they all start to once you start to understand one really well, you'll understand the others much easier as well. So it's not like starting over each time. You'll see money line, you'll see spread, you'll see total all over the place in all kinds of sports betting. And so once you understand how the basic mechanics work, then you'll understand what you really need to understand to be able to go place some bets and enjoy watching these sports and understand. Like, the worst thing is, and where I feel like a lot of people go wrong, is that they want to bet sports. They think it's like it would be fun, but there's just so much craziness going on with all those lines and all this stuff. And the books just want you to do these same game parlays, which please don't do that if you don't know what you're doing. But like, the basics are easy enough to understand. Start there and just try to place bets that you understand and build your knowledge from there. If you go out and try to bet a bunch of crazy things that seem easy to play, but you don't really understand what's going on, and I think every sports bettor has done this at some point in their life, but if you go and place a bet that you don't understand, you're not going to necessarily learn what you need to in doing that, but B, you could be risking a lot of money and hurting your sports betting experience, where I'd much rather see you go at it slowly, build up your knowledge, build up your betting, build up your confidence in what you're doing, and then eventually transition into a place where you can make sharp sports bet, where you can start really making money doing this. But you have to start with the fundamentals. You have to start with understanding the basics of sports betting. And that's why I'm creating the series, because I want to make sure that coming from a sharp sports bettor perspective, you have the basics that you need to then be on that journey yourself. So with that, if you enjoy this content, please like and subscribe. Definitely, if you're interested in Odds Jam and want to become a sharp sports bettor, follow my link, atrainbets, oddsjam.com, and use my promo code atrainbets. You'll save 20% off Odds Jam for life, and it will help me out in being able to produce some of this content and help train people on how to become sharp sports bettors themselves. And with that, go have some fun betting some sports, making some money, understanding these, and enjoying playoff time with these various sports. And if you're seeing this later, beyond playoff time, it's hockey. So hockey's like, 11 months of the year anyway. So enjoy that. Appreciate the support of the channel. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you soon. Take care, everybody. Have a good one.
What you gonna do for